You know what they say about hindsight being 20/20? Well, mine's got fucking laser vision now. I should have seen it coming when Serena started wearing makeup to her Tuesday night book club. Should have known something was up when she traded her usual romance novels for fitness magazines. But hey, I'm just a construction foreman from Millbrook, Massachusetts. What do I know about the subtle art of marital deception? My name's Nick Barlow, and I've been married to Serena for 12 years. 12 years of what I thought was a pretty decent life in our old Victorian house on Maple Street. Sure, we had our problems. Who doesn't? But I never thought she'd be the type to step out. Shows what I know. It was a Thursday night in October when everything started unraveling. I was sitting in my workshop in the garage, nursing a beer and trying to fix our neighbor's broken fence gate, when Serena's phone buzzed on the workbench. She'd left it there while she went upstairs to shower after another one of her book club meetings. The notification lit up the screen. L. Can't wait for our weekend getaway. You're amazing, babe. L with a muscle emoji. Real subtle. I stared at that phone for a solid minute, my brain doing mental gymnastics, trying to find an innocent explanation. Maybe it was her friend Lisa talking about a girls' trip. Maybe the muscle emoji was some kind of inside joke about working out together. But deep down, I knew. You know how you just know sometimes? Like when you're about to hit your thumb with a hammer? Or when your boss is about to lay you off? That sick feeling in your gut that tells you your world's about to shift sideways. I heard the shower turn off upstairs. Serena would be down in 10 minutes, hair wrapped in a towel, asking me to rub her shoulders while she complained about her coworkers at Nexus Tech Solutions. Just like every other Thursday for the past 5 years. Except this wasn't like every other Thursday. I picked up her phone. No passcode. She'd always said she had nothing to hide. The irony wasn't lost on me now. I scrolled through her messages with this L person, and my stomach dropped through the floor. Last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you. Serena. I know. I feel so alive when I'm with you. Nick doesn't make me feel this way anymore. L. You deserve better. You deserve someone who appreciates how amazing you are. Serena. I'm scared to leave him. He's been good to me, but I'm not happy. L. Life's too short to settle. You know I'll take care of you. There were dozens of messages like this, going back 3 months. 3 fucking months. Photos, too. Nothing explicit, but intimate enough. Serena at some fancy restaurant I'd never been to. Serena at the gym with some muscled-up pretty boy who looked like he spent more on hair gel than I made in a week. Lucas Archer. That was his name. I remembered now. Serena had mentioned him a few times. Her new personal trainer at Elite Fitness. The guy who was really helping her achieve her goals. Yeah, I bet he was. I heard her footsteps on the stairs. Quick thinking, I took screenshots of everything and texted them to myself, then deleted the evidence from her phone. By the time she walked into the garage, towel wrapped around her head and wearing that silk robe I'd bought her for Christmas, I was back to working on the gate like nothing had happened. How was book club? I asked, not looking up from my work. Oh, you know. Same old drama. Jennifer's still complaining about her divorce, and Lisa won't shut up about her new diet. She picked up her phone, glanced at it casually. I'm exhausted. I think I'm going to bed early. What book are you guys reading this month? She paused for just a second too long. It's called Eat, Pray, Love, Elizabeth Gilbert. I nodded, still focused on the gate. Isn't that the one where the woman leaves her husband to find herself? Another pause. Yeah, it's really inspiring, actually. I bet it fucking was. She kissed the top of my head and headed back to the house. I waited until I heard the bedroom door close, then pulled out my own phone to look at the screenshots I'd sent myself. The evidence was all there, clear as day. My wife of 12 years was having an affair with some gym rat named Lucas Archer, and they were planning to run off together. The smart thing would have been to call a lawyer right then, file for divorce, split everything 50-50, move on with my life. But I've never been accused of being the smartest guy in the room. What I am is methodical, patient. And when someone screws me over, I don't just get mad. I get creative. I opened up my laptop and started doing some research on Mr. Lucas Archer. Social media made it easy. The guy was an open book. Instagram full of shirtless gym selfies and motivational quotes about living your best life and taking what you deserve. His Facebook showed he owned Elite Fitness with his business partner, Some guy named Mason Torres. Looked like Lucas had been married before. Divorced 2 years ago. His ex-wife had left some interesting comments on his old posts before she blocked him. Hope your new girlfriend knows what she's getting into, one read. Still haven't paid child support, that nice car, said another. Interesting. Very interesting. I spent the next 2 hours building a profile on Lucas Archer, where he lived, a fancy condo complex called Riverside Heights, where he ate, mostly expensive sushi places and trendy bistros, where he worked out, his own gym, obviously, but also the community center pool, where he taught aqua fitness classes. By midnight, I had a pretty complete picture of the man who was fucking my wife, and more importantly, I had the beginnings of a plan. Serena was already asleep when I finally came to bed. She was lying on her side, phone charging on the nightstand, that same little smile on her face that I used to think was because she was dreaming about me. Now I knew better. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathe. 12 years of marriage. 12 years of working my ass off to pay for this house, to give her the life she wanted. 12 years of coming home tired and dirty from construction sites, while she sat in her air-conditioned office playing HR manager and apparently texting her personal trainer. The old Nick would have woken her up right then, would have confronted her, demanded explanations, maybe even thrown Lucas's name in her face and watched her scramble for excuses. The old Nick would have made it easy for her. But the old Nick was gone. In his place was someone colder, more calculating. Someone who understood that the best revenge isn't served hot. It's served with a smile and a plan. I rolled over and closed my eyes, already thinking about tomorrow. I had some phone calls to make. Friday morning came with the usual routine. Serena up at 6:30. Shower, coffee, 20 minutes in front of the mirror doing her makeup and hair. I made breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast, same as always, and we sat at our kitchen table making small talk about our plans for the day. I've got a late meeting tonight, she said, not quite meeting my eyes. Probably won't be home until after 9. Another book club? I asked innocently. No, work stuff. We're launching that new employee wellness program, remember? Lots of planning sessions. Right, employee wellness. I wondered if Lucas was part of her wellness program. No problem. I'll probably grab dinner with Big Al after work anyway. We're bidding on that new subdivision project, and he wants to go over the numbers. She smiled. The first genuine smile I'd seen from her in weeks. That's great, honey. I know how much that project means to you. It did mean a lot to me. Barlow Construction had been building a reputation in Millbrook for 5 years now, ever since I'd gone out on my own. This subdivision contract would set us up for the next decade. Funny how life works. Just when your personal world falls apart, your professional world starts looking up. After Serena left for work, I made my first phone call. Marlene's rusty anchor. We're closed, but I'm listening. Marlene Kowalski owned the best dive bar in Millbrook. She'd been serving drinks and collecting gossip for 30 years, and she knew everyone's business before they did. Marlene, it's Nick Barlow. Nicky! How's that pretty wife of yours? Haven't seen her around lately. That's actually what I wanted to talk to you about. You free for coffee this morning? For you, sweetheart? Always. Meet me at Donna's Diner in 20 minutes. Donna's Diner was the kind of place where the coffee was strong, the gossip was stronger, and nobody asked too many questions. Marlene was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with a cup of coffee and a cigarette she wasn't supposed to be smoking indoors. You look like shit, Nicky, she said by way of greeting. What's eating you? I slid into the booth across from her and got straight to the point. What do you know about Lucas Archer? Her eyebrows went up. The pretty boy from the gym? Why? Just curious. He's been training Serena, and I wanted to make sure he's legit. Marlene studied my face for a long moment, then crushed out her cigarette. Honey, Lucas Archer is about as legit as a $3 bill. He's been sniffing around married women since he opened that gym. His ex-wife used to come into the anchor after their divorce, crying into her beer about how he cleaned out their joint account and ran off with some client. He has a pattern? Sweetheart, he's got more patterns than a quilting bee. Always the same type. Married women with money, usually going through some kind of midlife crisis. He wines them, dines them, tells them they're special and deserve better, then moves in for the kill. My jaw clenched. And the kill is whatever he can get. Money, gifts, a place to stay when his rent's due. Sometimes he just gets bored and moves on. Sometimes the husband finds out and Lucas has to find a new hunting ground. Has he ever gotten violent? Not that I know of. He's more of a lover than a fighter, if you catch my drift. But his business partner, Mason Torres, now that's a different story. Big guy. Used to bounce at some clubs in Boston before he moved here. Word is he handles Lucas's problems when they come up. I filed that information away. What else? Well, let's see. His gym's been struggling lately. Too much competition from those fancy chain places. He drives a Tesla he can't afford. Lives in a condo that's way above his means. And he's got a gambling problem that he thinks nobody knows about. Gambling? Poker games at Mickey's Auto Shop every Wednesday night. Usually loses more than he wins, from what I hear. And there's rumors about some side business. Selling supplements that aren't exactly FDA approved, if you know what I mean. This was better than I'd hoped. Lucas Archer wasn't just a homewrecker. He was a homewrecker with vulnerabilities. Marlene, I need a favor. She leaned back in the booth and lit another cigarette. I figured this wasn't just idle curiosity. What's going on, Nikki? I told her everything. The text messages, the photos, the weekend getaway plans. By the time I finished, Marlene's expression had gone from concerned to pissed off. That son of a bitch, she muttered. And that little tramp. I always thought she was too good for her own britches. What do you need from me? Information, mostly. I want to know everywhere they go, everyone they talk to, everything they do. Can you put the word out with your network? Marlene's network was every bartender, waitress, shop owner, and busybody in Millbrook. If Lucas and Serena so much as bought a coffee together, she'd know about it within the hour. Consider it done. But Nikki, be careful. I've seen men go down dark roads over cheating wives, and it never ends well. Don't worry about me, Marlene. I'm not going to do anything stupid. She studied my face again, then nodded slowly. No, I don't think you are. You're going to do something smart, aren't you? I smiled for the first time in 24 hours. Something like that. My second stop was Elite Fitness. I had never been inside before. Serena had always said it was her space, and she needed somewhere that was just hers. Now I knew why. The gym was exactly what I'd expected. All chrome and mirrors, with motivational posters covering every wall. The equipment looked expensive, but not particularly well maintained. The clientele was mostly middle-aged women in designer workout clothes, and younger guys who spent more time posing than lifting. Lucas was easy to spot. He looked exactly like his photos. 6 feet tall, perfectly styled hair, muscles that screamed, "I live at the gym." He was working with a client, some blonde woman who was hanging on his every word as he guided her through a set of squats. I walked up to the front desk, where a young girl with too much makeup was filing her nails. "Hi, I'm interested in joining. Can I get a tour?" "Sure. Let me get Lucas. He's our owner and head trainer." Perfect. Lucas finished with his client and walked over with that practiced smile that probably worked on most people. "Hey there, I'm Lucas Archer. Welcome to Elite Fitness." He stuck out his hand, and I shook it. His grip was firm, but not overly aggressive. He was sizing me up just like I was sizing him up. "Nick Barlow. My wife's been training here for a few months. Serena? She's always talking about how great this place is." Something flickered in his eyes when I mentioned Serena's name, but his smile never wavered. "Oh yeah, Serena's awesome. She's made incredible progress. You should be proud." I am. She's like a new woman these days. So much happier, so much more energetic. That's what we're all about here, helping people become the best version of themselves. He gave me the full tour, showing off the equipment and facilities, while dropping not-so-subtle hints about how expensive everything was. I played the part of the interested potential customer, asking questions about membership fees and training packages. "Your wife mentioned you're in construction," Lucas said as we walked past the free weights section. "That's right, Barlow Construction. We do residential and commercial work. Must be tough work, physical. It has its moments, but I like working with my hands, building things that last. I'm not much for shortcuts or quick fixes." Again, that flicker in his eyes. He was starting to realize I wasn't just some oblivious husband looking to get in shape. "Well, if you decide to join, I'd be happy to set you up with a training program. I work with a lot of couples. It can be great for relationships." "I bet it can. Maybe I'll think about it." I left without signing up, but not before getting a good look at the layout of the place and the schedule posted on the wall. Lucas taught couples fitness classes on Tuesday and Thursday evenings, the same nights Serena claimed to be at book club. My third stop was the Millbrook Police Department. Detective Eddie Sloan and I went way back. We'd played high school football together, and he'd been coming to Marlene's for years. He was a good cop and a better friend. "Nick, what brings you by? Please tell me you're not here to report another break-in at one of your job sites." "Nothing like that, Eddie. I need some advice, off the record." His expression got serious, and he gestured for me to sit down. "What's going on?" I gave him the abbreviated version. Cheating wife, planning to leave, wanted to make sure I protected myself legally. "Smart man, coming to me first, instead of doing something stupid," Eddie said when I finished. "You'd be amazed how many guys in your situation end up in handcuffs because they let their emotions get the better of them." "What are my options?" "Legally? File for divorce. Document everything. Let the lawyers sort it out. Massachusetts is a no-fault state, so the affair won't matter much for the divorce itself, but it might help with asset division if you can prove she was spending marital funds on her boyfriend." "What if I wanted to expose them publicly?" Eddie leaned back in his chair. "Depends how you do it. You can't stalk them or harass them, but if they're carrying on in public, you've got every right to document it. Just be smart about it, and don't do anything that could be construed as threatening." "What about his business? If I found out he was doing something illegal?" "If you have evidence of illegal activity, you report it through proper channels. But, Nick, and I'm saying this as your friend, don't go looking for trouble. Focus on protecting yourself and your assets. Let karma handle the rest." I thanked Eddie and left, but his words stuck with me. Don't go looking for trouble. Good advice, except trouble had already found me. It was sleeping in my bed and planning weekend getaways with gym rats. That evening, I sat in my workshop and laid out everything I'd learned. Lucas Archer was a serial cheater with financial problems and a side business in questionable supplements. He had a violent business partner and a gambling addiction. He targeted married women with money and had a pattern of cleaning them out before moving on. My wife was just his latest mark. The old Nick would have confronted them both, made a scene, maybe thrown a punch or two. But the old Nick wouldn't have gotten the satisfaction he deserved. The new Nick was going to be patient, methodical, creative. I opened my laptop and started typing. If Lucas Archer wanted to play games with other people's lives, he was about to learn what it felt like when someone played back. Saturday morning brought the first real test of my acting abilities. Serena was getting ready for her shopping trip with her friend Ava. At least, that's what she told me. Based on her outfit choice and the overnight bag she thought I didn't see her pack, I had my doubts. "Will you be back tonight?" I asked, buttering toast at the kitchen counter. "Probably not until late. You know how Ava is when she gets going. We'll probably end up at some wine bar in Boston, talking until all hours." "Sounds fun." "Tell Ava I said hi." She kissed my cheek, and I caught a whiff of that expensive perfume she'd started wearing lately. The same perfume I'd smelled in Lucas's gym yesterday. After she left, I gave her a 30-minute head start, then got in my truck and drove to Riverside Heights. Lucas's Tesla was already gone from his assigned parking spot. I'd done my homework. The condo complex had security cameras, but they were focused on the entrances, not the parking areas. I found a spot across the street with a clear view of Lucas's building and settled in to wait. They showed up at 2:47 p.m., laughing and carrying shopping bags from stores I'd never heard of. Expensive stores, from the look of the logos. They disappeared into the building, and I didn't see them again until 6:15 p.m., when they emerged, dressed for dinner. I followed them to Chez Laurent, the fanciest French restaurant in Millbrook, the kind of place where a bottle of wine costs more than most people spent on groceries in a week. I parked across the street and watched them through the window, sharing intimate conversation and feeding each other dessert like teenagers. My phone buzzed with a text from Serena. "Having so much fun with Ava. Don't wait up. We're going to see a late movie. Love you. Love you." Right. I took photos. Lots of photos. Lucas reaching across the table to hold her hand. Serena laughing at something he said. Her face lit up in a way I hadn't seen in months. The two of them walking out of the restaurant with his arm around her waist. They went back to his condo, and this time, they didn't come out. I waited until midnight, then drove home to our empty house. Sunday was more of the same. Serena came home around noon with shopping bags and stories about her girls' weekend that didn't match anything I'd witnessed. She was glowing, happier than I'd seen her in years, and it took everything I had not to throw the photos in her face right then. Instead, I smiled and asked about her purchases, listened to her lies about the movie they'd seen, and helped her put away the new lingerie she claimed Ava had talked her into buying. That afternoon, while Serena napped off her exhausting weekend, I made another call. "Marlene, it's Nick. What have you got for me?" "Oh, honey, do I have stories for you. First off, your wife and her boy toy have been seen all over town. Dinner at Chez Laurent Saturday night, breakfast at the Riverside Cafe Sunday morning, shopping at that fancy boutique on Main Street. I know about the restaurant. What else?" "Well, here's the interesting part. My friend Dolores works at First National Bank, and she says Lucas has been bouncing checks left and right. His business account is overdrawn, and his personal account isn't much better. Money problems. Big time. And get this, he's been asking around about short-term loans, high-interest stuff from some not-so-nice people." That was useful information. A desperate man makes stupid decisions. "There's more," Marlene continued. "Remember I told you about his gambling? Well, apparently he owes Mickey's poker game about $15,000, and Mickey's getting impatient." "How impatient?" "Let's just say Mickey's not known for his understanding nature. Word is, Lucas has until the end of the month to pay up, or things might get unpleasant." The end of the month was 2 weeks away. Perfect timing. "One more thing, Nikki. That friend of your wife's, Ava, she was at the Anchor Friday night, drunk off her ass, and running her mouth about how Serena was finally living her truth and deserving real love. Made quite a scene before her boyfriend dragged her out. So Serena's friends knew about the affair. They were probably encouraging it, filling her head with bullshit about following her heart and deserving better. I had met Ava a few times at work parties. She was one of those women who thought every marriage that wasn't perfect should end in divorce. Thanks, Marlene. Keep your ears open. Always do, sweetheart. But Nick, be careful. I've got a feeling this is about to get messy. She was right, but not in the way she thought. Monday morning, I called in a favor from my old friend Tommy Ricci. Tommy ran a private investigation service out of Springfield, and we'd done some work together over the years. Mostly insurance fraud cases where construction companies were getting scammed. "Nick! How's business?" "Can't complain. Listen, Tommy, I need some help with a personal matter." "Cheating wife? Is it that obvious?" "Brother, I've been in this business for 20 years. It's always a cheating wife or a cheating husband. What do you need?" "Background check on a guy named Lucas Archer. I want to know everything. Financial records, criminal history, business dealings, the works. That's not cheap, Nick. Money's not a problem. Give me 3 days." While Tommy worked his magic, I focused on the next phase of my plan. If Lucas was desperate for money, I was going to make sure he got even more desperate. I started small. A call to the health department about concerns regarding supplement sales at Elite Fitness, an anonymous tip to the IRS about potential unreported income from personal training sessions, a friendly chat with Mickey Torino about Lucas's gambling debts. Mickey ran his poker game out of the back room of his auto shop. He was old school, the kind of guy who still collected debts the traditional way. When I stopped by Tuesday afternoon, he was working on a 1967 Camaro and listening to Sinatra on an ancient radio. "Nick Barlow, I heard you were doing good for yourself these days." "Can't complain, Mickey." "Listen, I wanted to talk to you about Lucas Archer." Mickey's expression hardened. "That pretty boy owes me money. 15 grand and counting. You know something about that?" "I know he's been spreading his money around town, buying expensive dinners and gifts for married women. Thought you should know he's got other priorities besides paying his debts." "Is that so?" Mickey wiped his hands on a greasy rag. "Maybe it's time Lucas and I had another conversation about priorities." "Maybe it is." I left Mickey's shop knowing that Lucas's week was about to get a lot more complicated. Between the health department investigation, the IRS audit, and Mickey's renewed interest in collecting his debt, the pressure would start building fast. Wednesday evening, Serena announced she was going to another book club meeting. By now, I knew she was meeting Lucas for his couples fitness class, but I played along. "What book this week?" Wild by Cheryl Strayed. It's about a woman who hikes the Pacific Coast Trail to find herself after her marriage falls apart. Of course it was. After she left, I drove to Elite Fitness and parked across the street. Sure enough, Serena's car was in the lot. I could see her and Lucas through the window, doing stretches that looked more like foreplay than exercise. My phone rang. Tommy Ricci. "Nick, I've got that information you wanted on Lucas Archer. You sitting down?" "I'm listening." This guy's a real piece of work. 2 DUIs in the past 5 years, both plea bargained down. 3 restraining orders from ex-girlfriends, all dropped when he moved out of state. His business is hemorrhaging money. Behind on rent, utilities, equipment loans. His personal finances are even worse. What about criminal history? Nothing major, but there's a pattern. Insurance fraud in Connecticut. He claimed someone keyed his car, but the investigation showed he did it himself. Welfare fraud in Rhode Island. Collecting benefits while working under the table. And get this, he's been married 4 times, not just once like he tells people. 4 times? Yep. And every divorce followed the same pattern. He'd clean out joint accounts, max out credit cards, then disappear. His last wife is still trying to collect alimony from 2019. This was better than I'd hoped. Lucas Archer wasn't just a serial cheater, he was a career criminal who specialized in financial fraud. There's more, Tommy continued. That gym of his, it's not just selling questionable supplements. They're running a whole operation. Steroids, growth hormones, stuff that'll get you serious federal time if you're caught. How serious? DEA serious. I've got contacts who tell me Elite Fitness has been on their radar for months. They're just building a case. I thanked Tommy and hung up, my mind racing. Lucas Archer was a walking time bomb, and my wife was standing right next to him when he exploded. The smart thing would have been to warn her, tell her what I'd discovered, show her the evidence, give her a chance to get out before the walls came tumbling down. But I wasn't feeling particularly smart or generous. Instead, I drove home and waited for Serena to come back from her book club. She arrived at 10:30, glowing and disheveled, with stories about how inspiring Cheryl Strayed's journey was. "It really makes you think about taking chances, you know?" she said as she got ready for bed. "About not settling for a life that doesn't fulfill you." Sounds like a powerful book. It is. Maybe you should read it sometime. Maybe I will. I lay awake that night, listening to her breathe beside me, thinking about chances and fulfillment and not settling. She was right about one thing. It was time to stop settling, but not in the way she thought. Thursday brought the first crack in Lucas's perfect facade. I was having coffee at Donna's diner when my phone buzzed with a text from Marlene. "Your boy just got a visit from the health department. Shut down supplement sales pending investigation. He's freaking out." Perfect. The pressure was building exactly as I'd planned. That evening, Serena announced another book club meeting. I kissed her goodbye and told her to drive safely, then waited 20 minutes before heading to Elite Fitness myself. The gym was buzzing with activity when I arrived. Lucas was working with his usual Thursday night group, 5 middle-aged women who hung on his every word like he was dispensing the secrets of eternal youth. Serena was front and center, wearing yoga pants that probably cost more than I made in a day. I parked across the street and settled in to watch. Through the window, I could see Lucas was agitated. His usual smooth demeanor was cracking, and he kept checking his phone between exercises. The health department visit had rattled him. At 8:45, the class ended. The other women filtered out, but Serena lingered. She and Lucas stood close together by the reception desk, talking in hushed tones. Even from across the street, I could see the tension in their body language. Then Lucas's business partner, Mason Torres, showed up. Mason was exactly what Marlene had described. 6'4", built like a linebacker, with the kind of face that had seen its share of fights. He stormed into the gym, and immediately Lucas and Serena's intimate conversation became a heated 3-way argument. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could see Mason gesturing angrily, Lucas looking defensive, and Serena appearing increasingly uncomfortable. After about 10 minutes, Mason stormed out, slamming the door hard enough that I could hear it from across the street. Lucas and Serena talked for a few more minutes. Then she gathered her things and left. Instead of heading home, she drove to the Riverside Cafe, our old date spot from when we were first married. Lucas met her there 5 minutes later. I followed and parked where I could watch them through the cafe window. They sat in a corner booth, holding hands across the table, while Serena appeared to be consoling Lucas about whatever Mason had been angry about. She was rubbing his knuckles with her thumb, the same way she used to comfort me when I'd had a bad day at work. My phone buzzed. Text from Serena. Book club running late tonight. Don't wait up. Love you. I stared at that message for a long moment, feeling something cold and hard settle in my chest. Love you. She was sitting 50 feet away, comforting another man, planning God knows what kind of future with him. And she was texting me about love. I took more photos. Lucas looking stressed and defeated. Serena leaning across the table to kiss his forehead. The two of them walking out to the parking lot, where she hugged him tight before getting in her car. But instead of going home, Serena drove to her friend Ava's house in the Riverside development. I watched from the end of the street as she knocked on the door, was let inside, and stayed for over an hour. When she finally came home at midnight, I was waiting in the living room with a beer and the TV on. How was book club? I asked without looking away from the screen. Intense. We had a really deep discussion about taking control of your life and not being afraid of change. Sounds heavy. It was. She sat down on the couch next to me, close enough that I could smell Lucas's cologne on her clothes. Nick, can I ask you something? Here it comes, I thought. This is where she tells me she's unhappy, that she needs space, that she's found someone else. Sure. Are you happy? I mean, really happy with our life? I looked at her then, really looked at her. She was beautiful. I'd always thought so. But there was something different in her face now, something restless and guilty and excited all at the same time. I'm content, I said carefully. We've got a good life, Serena. Good house, good jobs, good friends. What more do you want? I don't know. Sometimes I feel like we're just going through the motions, you know? Like we're roommates instead of lovers. Is that how you feel? She was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. Sometimes. And what do you think we should do about that? Another long pause. I don't know. Maybe we should talk to someone. A counselor or something. Is that what you want? I think maybe we should take a break. Just for a little while. To figure out what we really want. There it was. Not the full truth, but close enough. She wanted a break so she could explore her options with Lucas without technically cheating on me. It was a coward's way out, but typical Serena. She always wanted to be the good guy in every story. How long a break? I don't know, a few weeks, a month? I could stay with Ava. Give us both some space to think. And then what? Then we'll see. Maybe we'll realize we miss each other and work things out. Maybe we'll realize we're better as friends. I nodded slowly, as if I was considering it. Okay. Okay. If that's what you need, then okay. I want you to be happy, Serena. She looked surprised, like she'd been expecting a fight. Really? Really? But I have one condition. What? If we're taking a break, then we're really taking a break. No contact except for practical stuff. Bills, the house, that kind of thing. And if either of us decides we want to see other people, we're honest about it. She nodded eagerly. Of course. Complete honesty. Complete honesty. From the woman who'd been lying to my face for 3 months. When do you want to start this break? Maybe this weekend? I'll pack some things and go stay with Ava. Sounds good. She leaned over and kissed my cheek. Thank you for being so understanding. I know this isn't easy. We'll figure it out, I said. We always do. After she went to bed, I sat in the living room for another hour, thinking. Serena wanted a break so she could play house with Lucas without feeling guilty about it. She thought she was being clever, easing me into the idea of separation so that when she eventually asked for a divorce, I'd be prepared for it. What she didn't know was that I was already 3 steps ahead of her. Friday morning, I made another call to Tommy Ricci. Nick, I was just about to call you. That DEA investigation I mentioned? It's moving fast. Word is they're planning raids next week. How do you know? I've got a contact in the Springfield field office. Elite Fitness is definitely on the list, along with 2 other gyms in the area. They've been building this case for 8 months. What kind of charges are we talking about? Federal drug trafficking, conspiracy, money laundering, the works. Anyone caught up in it is looking at serious prison time. My wife was about to move in with a man who was days away from federal drug charges. The irony was almost too perfect. Tommy, I need you to do something for me. I want you to send an anonymous package to the DEA with everything you found on Lucas Archer. Financial records, business dealings, all of it. Nick, I can't. You're not doing anything illegal. You're providing information about suspected criminal activity to federal law enforcement. That's called being a good citizen. There was a pause. What aren't you telling me? My wife is involved with this guy. She doesn't know about his business, and she's about to get caught in the crossfire. I want to make sure the investigation moves fast enough to keep her from getting in too deep. Another pause. You're trying to save her from herself. Something like that. I'll make the call. That evening, Serena packed 2 suitcases and loaded them into her car. She was trying to act casual, but I could see the excitement in her eyes. She thought she was escaping to freedom. I'll call you in a few days, she said, standing in our doorway with her bags. Once we've both had time to think. Take all the time you need. She hesitated, like she wanted to say something else, then kissed my cheek and left. I watched her taillights disappear down Maple Street, then went inside and poured myself a drink. The house felt different with her gone. Not empty, exactly, but lighter somehow. Like a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying had been lifted. My phone rang. Marlene. Marlene, Nikki, you need to get down to the Anchor right now. What's wrong? Just get down here, trust me. I found Marlene behind the bar, polishing glasses with more energy than necessary. Her tell when she was agitated. What's going on? Your wife's friends were here an hour ago. Ava and that other one, Jamie. Drunk as skunks and running their mouths about how Serena was finally free and how she was going to start her new life with some personal trainer. They said that? In public? Honey, they announced it to the whole bar. Ava was showing off pictures on her phone, talking about double dates and weekend getaways. Made quite a scene before I cut them off and sent them home. I felt that cold, hard thing in my chest expand. It was one thing for Serena to cheat on me. It was another thing entirely for her friends to celebrate it publicly, turning me into the laughingstock of Millbrook. There's more, Marlene continued. Mickey Torino was here when they were shooting their mouths off. He heard everything. Mickey, who was already pissed about Lucas's gambling debts. Where's Mickey now? Gone to have a conversation with your wife's boyfriend. And Mickey was not happy about being owed money by a man who's apparently got plenty to spend on other men's wives. I thanked Marlene and drove home, but I couldn't sit still. I kept thinking about Serena at Ava's house, probably celebrating her freedom and planning her future with Lucas. I thought about her friends, spreading gossip around town, making me look like a fool who didn't know his own wife was cheating on him. Most of all, I thought about Lucas Archer, who had waltzed into my life and destroyed my marriage for sport. The old Nick would have let it go, would have filed for divorce, split everything down the middle, and tried to move on with his life. But the old Nick was gone, and the new Nick had plans. Saturday morning brought news that changed everything. I was having coffee in my kitchen when Eddie Sloan called. Nick, I thought you should know. There was an incident at Elite Fitness last night. Someone trashed the place pretty thoroughly. What kind of incident? Broken windows, equipment damaged, office ransacked. Lucas Archer filed a report, but he was pretty evasive about who might have done it. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you? I was home all night, Eddie. You can check my phone records if you want. I'm not checking anything, Nick. Just wanted to make sure you were staying out of trouble like we discussed. Always do. But after I hung up, I smiled for the first time in days. Mickey Torino had always been efficient. I drove by Elite Fitness around noon, ostensibly to grab lunch at the deli next door. The gym was closed, with plywood covering the broken windows and a sign saying, temporarily closed for repairs. Lucas's Tesla was nowhere to be seen. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Lucas. Interesting. I texted back. I'm listening. Meet me at Riverside Park. 1 hour. Come alone. I considered ignoring him, but curiosity got the better of me. Riverside Park was public, well lit, and usually busy on Saturday afternoons. If Lucas wanted to have a conversation, it would be safe enough. He was waiting by the duck pond when I arrived, sitting on a bench and looking like he'd aged 10 years overnight. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, and there were dark circles under his eyes. Thanks for coming, he said as I approached. What do you want, Lucas? I want you to call off your dogs. I sat down on the bench, leaving plenty of space between us. I don't know what you're talking about. Bullshit. The health department, the IRS, Mickey Torino, that's all you, isn't it? Mickey Torino? The guy who runs poker games? Why would I know anything about him? Lucas's jaw clenched. He came to see me last night. Said he'd heard I was spending his money on other men's wives instead of paying my debts. Funny coincidence, don't you think? Sounds like you've got a gambling problem, Lucas. That's not my fault. Look, I know you're pissed about Serena, and I get it, but this has gone too far. My gym is destroyed, I've got federal agents asking questions, and Mickey's threatening to break my legs if I don't pay him by Monday. Again, I don't see how any of that involves me. He turned to face me, and for the first time, I saw real fear in his eyes. What do you want? Money? I'll pay you back every cent Serena spent on dinners and gifts. Just call this off before it gets worse. You think this is about money? Isn't it? I studied his face for a long moment. He really didn't get it. In his mind, this was just business. He'd stolen another man's wife, gotten caught, and now it was time to negotiate his way out of trouble. Lucas, let me explain something to you. You didn't just take my wife. You turned her into a liar. You made her betray 12 years of marriage for what? Good sex and some expensive dinners? You convinced her she deserved better than the man who's been working his ass off to give her a good life. She was unhappy. She was bored. There's a difference. But you saw an opportunity and you took it, didn't you? Another lonely housewife with a joint bank account and a husband who worked too much. His face flushed. It's not like that. Sure it is. You've done this before. Tommy Ricci told me all about your previous marriages. 4 wives, Lucas? 4 women you've cleaned out and abandoned? The color drained from his face. You had me investigated? I had you researched. Big difference. And you know what I found out? You're not just a cheater, you're a criminal. Drug dealing, insurance fraud, welfare scams. Quite a resume. You can't prove any of that. I don't have to prove it. The DEA will do that for me. He went very still. What? They're coming for you, Lucas. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. And when they do, everyone connected to your little operation is going down with you. Serena doesn't know anything about, doesn't matter. She's living with you, sleeping with you, probably helping you spend money you made selling illegal drugs. How do you think that's going to look to a federal prosecutor? He stood up abruptly, pacing to the edge of the pond. You bastard! You're going to let your own wife go to prison just to get revenge on me? My wife made her choice. She chose you over 12 years of marriage. Now she gets to live with the consequences. She loves me. She loves the idea of you. The fantasy you sold her about being special and deserving better. But Lucas, here's the thing about fantasies. They don't survive contact with reality. I stood up and walked over to where he was standing. Reality is federal drug charges. Reality is Mickey Torino collecting his debts the old-fashioned way. Reality is being broke and desperate and alone when the walls come tumbling down. What do you want from me? I want you to tell Serena the truth. All of it. The drug dealing, the gambling debts, the 4 ex-wives, the federal investigation, everything. She'll leave me. Probably, but at least she'll be clear of the blast radius when your life explodes. He was quiet for a long moment, staring at the ducks on the pond. And if I don't? Then you don't. Either way, this ends the same for you. The only question is whether Serena goes down with you or gets out in time to salvage something from her life. I started walking back toward the parking lot, then turned around. Oh, and Lucas? Mickey Torino expects his $15,000 by Monday. I'd suggest you figure out where you're going to get it. I left him standing by the pond, looking like a man who just realized he was standing in quicksand. That evening, I was grilling a burger in my backyard when my phone rang. Serena. Nick, I need to talk to you. I thought we were taking a break. We are, but something's happened. Can I come over? You can talk to me right here on the phone. There was a pause. Then, Lucas told me some things today. About his business, about some problems he's having. I think I made a mistake. What kind of mistake? I can't talk about it over the phone. Please, Nick. I know I don't have the right to ask, but I need to see you. I considered hanging up on her. Part of me wanted to let her figure it out on her own, let her deal with the consequences of choosing Lucas over our marriage. But the part of me that had loved her for 12 years, that still remembered the woman she'd been before Lucas Archer came into our lives, couldn't quite do it. You can come over, but Serena, this doesn't change anything between us. We're still separated, and I'm still planning to file for divorce. I understand. She showed up an hour later, looking like she'd been crying. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she was wearing jeans and one of my old college sweatshirts, the same outfit she used to wear when she was sick or upset. You look terrible, I said, letting her into the kitchen. I feel terrible. She sat down at our table, the same table where she'd been lying to me for months. Nick, I'm so sorry. I know that doesn't mean anything now, but I need you to know that I never meant for any of this to happen. But it did happen. Yes, and I was stupid and selfish, and I threw away everything good in my life for a fantasy. I poured myself a beer and sat down across from her. What did Lucas tell you? Everything. The drug dealing, the gambling, the other wives, all of it. He said you confronted him, that you knew about the federal investigation. I did my homework. How long have you known? About us, I mean. 3 weeks. She flinched. 3 weeks? And you didn't say anything? What was I supposed to say? Hey, honey, I know you're fucking your personal trainer, but could you pass the salt? You could have confronted me. We could have talked about it. Like we're talking now? After you've already moved out and your boyfriend's life is falling apart? She was quiet for a moment. Then, you're right. I don't get to ask for understanding now. No, you don't. Nick, I want to come home. I want to try to fix this. I looked at her, sitting there in my sweatshirt, looking young and vulnerable and sorry, and for just a moment, I almost said yes. Almost told her we could work it out, go to counseling, start over. But then I remembered the text messages, the lies, the 3 months of looking me in the eye and planning her escape with another man. It's too late, Serena. Please, I'll do anything, counseling, therapy, whatever you want. I'll quit my job, we can move somewhere else, start fresh. I don't want to start fresh with you. I want to start fresh without you. She started crying then. Real tears that made her mascara run and her nose turn red. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I fucked up everything good we had. But Nick, I love you. I've always loved you. No, you loved the security I gave you. You loved having a husband who paid the bills and fixed things around the house and never asked too many questions. But you didn't love me enough to be faithful. That's not true. It is true. And you know what the really sad part is? If you just talked to me 3 months ago, told me you were unhappy and wanted to work on our marriage, I would have done anything to fix it. Counseling, date nights, whatever you needed. But instead, you went looking for excitement with a criminal who was planning to clean out our bank account and disappear. She wiped her eyes with the sleeve of my sweatshirt. What happens now? Now you go back to Ava's house, pack up your things, and find somewhere else to live. I'm filing for divorce on Monday. And Lucas? Lucas has bigger problems than our marriage. The DEA is going to arrest him sometime in the next few days, and Mickey Torino wants his $15,000 by Monday. I'd suggest you stay as far away from both situations as possible. She nodded, still crying. I'm sorry, Nick. For all of it. I'm sorry I wasn't the wife you deserved. So am I. After she left, I sat in my kitchen for a long time, thinking about the past 3 weeks and everything that had led to this moment. I felt empty, but not sad. Tired, but not defeated. My phone buzzed with a text from Eddie Sloan. DEA raids happening Monday morning. Thought you should know. I texted back. Thanks for the heads up. Monday was going to be an interesting day. Monday morning came with the kind of crisp October air that made everything seem possible. I was having coffee on my back porch, watching the sun come up over Millbrook, when I heard the sirens. They started as a distant wail, then got louder and more numerous as they converged on the commercial district where Elite Fitness was located. I checked my watch. 6:47 a.m. The DEA was punctual. My phone started buzzing at 7:15. First Eddie Sloan, then Marlene, then 3 different guys from my construction crew who'd heard about the raids on the police scanner. By 8 a.m., it seemed like half the town knew that Elite Fitness had been raided by federal agents. I was getting dressed for work when Serena called. "Nick, they arrested Lucas." I heard. He called me from jail. They're charging him with drug trafficking, money laundering, conspiracy. He could go to prison for 20 years.
Probably will.
They want to talk to me, too. The DEA agents, I mean. They're coming to Ava's house this afternoon. I could hear the fear in her voice. What are you going to tell them? The truth. That I didn't know anything about his business. That we were just having an affair. Yes. Serena, listen to me carefully. Get a lawyer before you talk to them. Don't say anything without legal representation present. I can't afford a lawyer. I spent most of my savings on... She trailed off. On what? On him. Dinners, gifts, a weekend in Boston. God, I'm so stupid. Yes, you are. But that doesn't mean you should go to prison for it. Call David Brennan. He's a good criminal defense attorney. Tell him I referred you and that I'll cover his retainer. Why would you do that? Because despite everything, I don't want to see you in federal prison. There was a long pause, then, thank you. Don't thank me yet. Just get a lawyer and keep your mouth shut until he tells you otherwise. I hung up and finished getting dressed. I had a job site to visit and a life to get back to. The Millbrook diner was buzzing with gossip when I stopped for breakfast. Everyone was talking about the raids, speculating about who knew what and when they knew it. I kept my mouth shut and ate my eggs, listening to the theories and rumors swirling around me. I heard they got enough evidence to shut down 3 gyms, said Betty Morrison from behind the counter. My cousin works dispatch, added Joe Hendricks from the corner booth. She says they arrested 6 people, including that pretty boy who owns Elite Fitness. About time, muttered Frank Kowalski, Marlene's brother. That place was trouble from day one. I finished my breakfast and headed to the job site, where Big Al was waiting with the crew and 1,000 questions about the raids. Nick, wasn't your wife training at that gym? He asked as we reviewed the day's work schedule. She was. Not anymore. Al studied my face for a moment, then nodded. Good thing. We spent the day framing walls for a new house in the Riverside development. Honest work that felt good after 3 weeks of scheming and plotting. I lost myself in the rhythm of construction, the satisfaction of building something solid and permanent. At 3:30, my phone rang. David Brennan. Nick, I just finished with your wife. Interesting situation. How interesting? Well, the good news is she's not going to be charged. She genuinely didn't know about Archer's drug operation, and her financial records back that up. The bad news is she's broke and unemployed. Unemployed? Nexus Tech Solutions fired her this morning. Apparently, her affair with Archer became public knowledge, and the company decided she was a liability. I felt a twinge of something. Not quite sympathy, but not satisfaction either. What about Lucas? He's fucked, pardon my French. They've got him dead to rights on federal drug charges, plus the IRS is going after him for tax evasion. He'll be lucky to get 20 years. And Mickey Torino? What about Mickey Torino? Nothing, just wondering. David was quiet for a moment. Nick, I've been practicing law for 25 years, and I've learned to recognize when someone's been very, very careful about staying on the right side of the line. Whatever you did or didn't do to bring this situation about, you did it smart. I don't know what you mean. Sure you don't. Anyway, your wife's clean legally, but she's going to need help getting back on her feet. You still planning to file for divorce? First thing tomorrow morning. Understood. I'll send you my bill. That evening, I was grilling a steak in my backyard when Marlene showed up with a bottle of bourbon and a satisfied smile. Figured you might want to celebrate, she said, settling into one of my patio chairs. Celebrate what? The fact that justice has been served, even if it took a little help from some concerned citizens. I poured 2 glasses of bourbon and handed her one. 2 concerned citizens. 2 concerned citizens, she agreed, clinking her glass against mine. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sunset over Millbrook. Finally, Marlene spoke up. You know, Nicky, I've lived in this town for 60 years, and I've seen a lot of men get their hearts broken by cheating wives. Most of them either turn into bitter drunks or move away and start over somewhere else. And the others? The others figure out how to turn pain into power, how to take control of their own story instead of letting someone else write the ending. Is that what I did? Honey, what you did was art. You didn't break any laws, didn't hurt anybody who didn't deserve it, And you made sure your cheating wife learned the difference between fantasy and reality without destroying her life completely. She destroyed her own life. Yes, she did, but you made sure she survived the destruction. That takes a bigger man than most people realize. I thought about that as we finished our drinks. Serena had made her choice, and she'd have to live with the consequences. But I'd made sure those consequences didn't include federal prison or complete financial ruin. Maybe that made me a better man than I felt like. Or maybe it just made me someone who understood the difference between justice and revenge. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Thank you for the lawyer. I know I don't deserve your help, but I'm grateful. I hope someday you can forgive me. S. I showed the message to Marlene, who read it and shook her head. She still doesn't get it, does she? Get what? That forgiveness isn't something you give to someone else. It's something you give to yourself. Have I forgiven her? Marlene studied my face in the fading light. I think you forgave her the day you decided to save her from herself, instead of letting her go down with that criminal. The question is whether you've forgiven yourself. For what? For not seeing it coming. For not being the husband she thought she wanted. For being human instead of perfect. I considered that as Marlene gathered up her things and headed home. Had I forgiven myself? Or was I still carrying guilt about the failure of my marriage? The answer came to me as I cleaned up the dinner dishes in my quiet kitchen. I felt sad about the end of my marriage, but I didn't feel guilty. Serena had made her choices, and I'd made mine. The difference was that my choices had been calculated and deliberate, while hers had been impulsive and destructive. I protected myself, exposed the truth, and ensured that justice was served, all without breaking the law or compromising my integrity. If that wasn't something to be proud of, I didn't know what was. Tuesday morning, I filed for divorce. By Wednesday, the local newspaper had run a story about the DEA raids that mentioned Lucas's relationship with a married woman, but didn't name Serena. By Friday, Elite Fitness was boarded up permanently, and Lucas Archer was sitting in federal detention, awaiting trial. Serena moved back in with her parents in Springfield and started looking for a new job. We communicated only through lawyers after that, dividing our assets and ending our marriage with the same methodical precision I'd used to destroy her boyfriend's life. The house sold quickly. Apparently, there's always a market for well-maintained Victorian homes in good neighborhoods. After paying off the mortgage and splitting the proceeds, I had enough money to buy a smaller place closer to town and invest the rest in expanding Barlow construction. 6 months later, I was sitting in the Rusty Anchor with Big Al, celebrating our successful bid on the new subdivision project, when Marlene brought over another round of beers. You know, Nikki, I heard something interesting today, she said, wiping down the bar. What's that? Serena's engaged. Some accountant she met at her new job in Springfield. Seems like a nice guy. Steady, reliable, boring as hell. I considered this information and found that it didn't hurt the way I'd expected it to. Good for her. That's it? Good for her. What else is there to say? She learned her lesson about excitement and adventure. Now she wants security and stability. Maybe this time she'll appreciate what she's got. Marlene smiled and moved on to serve other customers. Big Al raised his beer in a toast. To new beginnings, he said. To new beginnings, I agreed. As I drove home that night through the quiet streets of Millbrook, I thought about the past year and everything that had changed. My marriage was over, but I was happier than I'd been in years. My business was thriving, I had good friends, and I was building a life that was entirely my own. Most importantly, I'd learned something valuable about myself. I wasn't the kind of man who would let someone destroy his life without consequences. I wasn't cruel or vindictive, but I wasn't a pushover either. When pushed, I pushed back. Intelligently, methodically, and effectively. Lucas Archer was serving 15 years in federal prison. Serena was starting over with a man who would probably never excite her the way Lucas had, but who would also never destroy her life for sport. And I was free to build whatever kind of future I wanted. It wasn't the ending I'd planned when I married Serena 12 years ago, but it was an ending I could live with. Some stories don't end with reconciliation or redemption. Sometimes they just end with justice, served cold and with a smile. And sometimes that's enough.